we watched it at my brother's. We had actually a great time watching it at my brother's.
Okay. Call to order. I've been trying to gather everybody tonight. But I'm going to call the meeting to order for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, October the 8th. We're going to start out tonight with the invocation with Alderman Barnhill, and then I'll lead us in a pledge of allegiance. So if we'll all stand, please.
Would you bow, please? Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer tonight. Again, thank you for this blessing, for all the blessings that we have. We know that we're truly a blessed nation. We give you thanks for these. We know that we're going through, many of us are difficult times. We ask that you be with each of us as we go through the troubles and trials of life. We also ask that you be with each of us tonight as aldermen, as the elected officials for the city of Franklin. Give us spiritual wisdom and guidance as we make decisions that guide the city of Franklin. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. Item 4 are grievances or statements from citizens for items that are not on the agenda tonight. Yes, ma'am, if you'll come to the podium and give your name and address.
I didn't realize this was going to be moved so close to the chair I was sitting in. It's
Very convenient for you. We're just trying to make it easy.
It is. I'm Lauren Lexa. I live at 2201 Skylark Court, Boyd Mill Estate subdivision. For years, and I wish I brought paperwork to track how long it's been, there have been development plans for what I'll call the Tidewater property on Downs Boulevard that abuts Boyd Mill Estate subdivision. And for each of the series of plans and developers, my subdivision was particularly concerned with what would happen to the tree line that was between the two properties. Developers would say, oh, trees are important to us. I would come to your meetings, to planning commission meetings saying, please make a condition of approval protection of the tree line. I know not all of you were on the board through the beginning of this, but I do know one of you even came out and walked through our subdivision and basically came back saying, yes, it is a very wooded area, and I'm paraphrasing that. Well, a couple months ago, stakes went in to show the back line of the properties of Tidewater Park, I think is what it's called now. The stakes are on what my subdivision thought was our open space. Some of them are maybe 4 feet from the fence, some are closer to 10. They have not staked the whole length of the property. One of the homeowners, and I did not talk to this person, one of the new homeowners, told one of my neighbors that since there's no yard, there's nowhere for their grandchildren to play, so they're going to cut down the trees. None of the plans I ever saw, and again, it probably went back to 2005, 2006, none ever showed the lot lines for that property coming over the fence. I realize what we saw were drawings. They weren't the actual plans that get submitted to the Planning Commission. But it's just kind of disconcerting when, in good faith, we thought that fence row that is fenced and those trees were the dividing line of the property. And again, to find out that it's not, which we can live with that, but that those trees can come down. I know the city has regulations that say a developer has to replace trees it takes down. But in this case, it's not the developer making that decision, it's the individual owner of these lots. I don't know that everyone who abuts Boyd Mill Estates will decide to cut all the trees down, and I don't have an answer. I just felt it was important to bring it to y'all's attention, just as something I don't know in the planning review, I don't know.
Well, we'll have staff get with you and make sure they have your contact information so they can help you clarify.
I did email them when the stakes went in, and basically the reply I got back was that property line disputes are not something the city gets involved with, which I understand, and I'm not asking the city to say, no, here's where the line is, here's where the line is. I'm just concerned that, again, you know, like I said, I know one of you who was on the board at the time did walk and say, there's a lot of trees here. And the potential to lose all those is just kind of distressing. They're not excellent specimens, you know, they're old trees that were in a tree row, but still, you know, they have a value. And again,
We'll
I
try to
don't,
get you an answer if you'll just make sure we.
Okay.
So staff can work with you on some
Okay,
of the
thanks,
questions
Mayor.
you asked.
Did we get a card? Did we get a card?
Yes, sir.
Evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm Sam Whitson. I live at 803 Fair Street here in Franklin, Tennessee, and I'm here to share my concerns regarding an issue that's been in the news lately and discussed at a prior BOMA session. I ask each of you to carefully consider the unintended consequences of any modification of our current zoning requirements regarding the parking and storage of RVs, boats, campers, and other large vehicles in our city's residential area. I've lived in communities in Germany and Massachusetts that closely controlled all aspects of neighborhood standards, to towns in Alabama and Missouri with little or no zoning laws. From what I've experienced in all these locations, we have it good and right here in Franklin. There are good and valid reasons most, if not all, HOAs restrict or prohibit the storage of large recreational vehicles and boats. Like HOAs, our zoning laws provide uniform standards that protect us all from health and nuisance issues ranging from unmowed lawns, barking dogs, junk cars, goat ranching, to the storage of large vehicles in and around our residential neighborhoods. With uniform zoning enforcement, the entire community is protected from those residents that may claim they only want to be left alone, but have no regard or consideration on their actions on others. Good zoning prevents neighbor-to-neighbor conflicts that often escalate to lawsuits, confrontations, calls to law enforcement, and neighborhood hostility. The current standards have been in place for years without any public dissent, controversy, or issues until one, and I must say a very decent and considerate but uninformed citizen was notified of a violation of the law. But if the law is changed based on this one complaint, there is the possibility that we could see RVs, campers, boats becoming the newest form of affordable housing in our community, especially if they are used as additional bedroom, apartment, or someone decides to rent their driveway or yard space for the permanent parking of these vehicles for storage or to be occupied by others. I think we all would rather have the city codes department enforce the current standard rather than watching to see how many people are using RVs and campers as additional bedroom or long-term temporary residence. Finally, recent comments insinuating our BOMA often results to dictating paint color or acting like a bunch of socialists is not only inflammatory, but also misleads the uninformed. I know the difference between socialism and the great way of life we enjoy here in Franklin. As a soldier in the U.S. Army at the end of the Cold War, I was actually standing on Karl Marx Strasse in East Berlin the day East Germany collapsed. So this issue is not about paint or socialism. It's about being good neighbors that are considerate of each other, and the need and charter requirement of our local government to protect the many from the possible actions of an uncaring and indifferent few. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service on our Board of Mayor and Aldermen and your careful consideration on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 5 is communications from Williamson County Mayor and Williamson County Commission. I see no one here tonight. We'll move on to item 6. We have no minutes to approve tonight. Item 7. It gives me pleasure tonight to recognize a group of residents who took time out of their busy schedules to learn how their local government works, and that is the 2013 class of the Citizens Government Academy. They spent 7 weeks studying each of our departments and took in-depth tours of our facilities. Their final session is this Thursday, where they will participate in a mock BOMA meeting to better understand how elected officials make decisions. Alderman Skinner is a proud graduate of the program, and we've got other graduates serving on boards and commissions throughout the county. If you're a member of the 2013 class of the Citizens Government Academy. I ask you to stand. And am aware that Jerry Barler, Stephen Baum, Reiner Kirsten, Paul Lebowitz are here, and they're lined up, and others obviously weren't able to make it. So good luck on the mock BOMA session. If you need any advice, we can probably help you. So let's give them a hand. So thanks for your participation, and also thank you for Monique McCullough, who has worked with your group, has been the coordinator, and I know you found her to be a great help during that time.
Hey, Monique.
Oh, that's yours. Next is miscellaneous reports. Eric, I'd like to call on you for a report.
I have 2 items I wanted to cover. One is, as the one person up here that doesn't stand for election, let me remind everybody that early voting is underway. It lasts through October 17th. It's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and on Saturday, this coming Saturday, from 8 to noon. So just make sure everybody's aware of that opportunity to do early voting in advance of the October 22nd city election. I have one other item I wanted to recognize. Our very own Linnea Benny recently received the Master Municipal Clerk designation. This is the top certification of people in the municipal clerk field. So that's a pretty rare thing, and we wanted to recognize that, and join me in giving her a little recognition. Okay.
Thank you for what you do,
deserved. Thank
Linnea.
you.
Now we have Melissa Ryerson.
Thanks. I never know when the right times to talk, even though I've been here for 5 years. Okay. We have this Saturday, the Celebration of Nations is coming, and it's 3 to 8 p.m. It's free and open to the public. Wonderful cultural music, the only cultural event in Franklin. Music from 3 to 8, and there'll be educational booths and lots of good food. And then from 5 to 8 is an international beer tasting. It's the first one. The funds raised benefit sister cities of Franklin and Williamson County, and they help support cultural events like this and student exchange. Tickets are $25. You can get them at sistercitiestn.org or at the Visitor Center, or you can come and get them the day of at the door.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other miscellaneous reports? Alderman Skinner, the regular.
I want to invite everybody to the Civil War Roundtable Sunday, October the 13th at 3 o'clock at the Police Community Room. The speaker will be Jim Kay, from Preservationist from Nashville, and he's going to speak on the Battle of Nashville and the lack of communication and command by General Bell Hood. So this could be a very controversial and interesting subject here in Franklin. So the Civil War Roundtable is the educational wing of Franklin's Charge. This is free and open to the public, and I invite everybody to come.
Alderman Blanton.
I just want to remind everybody that October 26th is our annual Pumpkin Fest, which is also accompanied by Franklin Tomorrow's Chili Cook-Off. So 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. I believe is, or 10, what time's Pumpkin Fest over? 6? 10 to 6. That's a free event to everyone. It's a great time. So, but also the Chili Cook-Off takes place on 3rd Avenue right out here. So.
And Vice Mayor.
Thursday night, undefeated Franklin High hosts Summit. So that's Thursday night at Franklin, so beware traffic.
Currently ranked 7th in the state.
Yeah, undefeated, and Ravenwood and Franklin are undefeated in the district, and Franklin has like Ravenwood, Independence, Summit, and Centennial left on the schedule, I think, so.
Good report. Number 9, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are deemed to be non-controversial and routine in nature by the governing body. They will be approved as recommended by committee or staff by one motion of the governing body. Tonight, we're considering items number 28 through 36. Is there a motion?
I vote for approval, but didn't we need to withdraw 29 and 30?
Yeah, defer both those to the November 12th
Okay,
meeting.
So move for approval with deferring 29 and 30 to the November.
12th.
12th
Okay.
meeting. Appropriate motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 10, this is a public hearing. Well, I'm sorry, item 10 and 11 have asked to be withdrawn. So we'll move on to item number 12. This is a public hearing, consideration ordinance 2013-13, a rezoning request for 1034 and 1035 Windcross Court from general commercial to residential variety RX on 11.21 acres. Would anyone like to speak to this body on the rezoning? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion?
Mayor, you
we got
may have been a little late.
This is the rezoning.
This is the rezoning. You want to speak to the rezoning, and then the next one will be,
Artesa. The next one will be, Tracy.
so is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Appropriate motion second. Any discussion?
I just
Alderman
want to say
Peterson?
that 13 is the redevelopment part to this same project.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 12, this is a public hearing. Consideration orders 2013-13, a rezoning request for 1034 and 1030. I just did that one. Excuse me.
You're on 13.
Withdrawing got me confused. Item 13, this is a public hearing. Consideration of resolution 2013-17, a resolution to approve the development plan for the Artesa PUD subdivision, including consideration of 2 modification of standards and 1 amendment on 11.21 acres for the property located at 1034 and 1035 Windcross Court. Does anyone want to speak to this body? And while you're coming up, I want to just mention to the board that we will be considering 2 modification of standards, which will each require a separate motion, and then there's a special condition that's been placed. Also, that'll be considered separately, and then there'll be a global vote, including all 3. So this is the public hearing. Go ahead, Mr. Gant.
Yes, I'm Sam Gant, 580 Jordan Road, which is across the road from the new Artesa development. We have a great concern for our safety and for the fact that we will have a great problem if a standard access is given onto Jordan Road from the Artesa development. The section of McEwen that Jordan Road comes in has a very, very bad intersection. There is no vision there from either direction. There's very limited vision, and cars exiting Jordan Road will get in always have a difficult time. And if we add 500 to 600 vehicles to Jordan Road and attempt to do that, not only will it be a problem and a danger in exiting Jordan Road, but there'll actually be a gridlock, and our family and people on Jordan Road will actually be quarantined. They will be unable to exit the road at that point. And we ask very respectfully that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen grant only an emergency exit at that point, that we can have the safety for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name and address.
My name is Tracy Ledbetter, 101 Winthrop Way, which is close to the dead end of Jordan, near this development. And my concern may have been better addressed at number 12. I just didn't quite hear what you're saying. The traffic concerns are a problem. The last meeting of the city, it's my understanding that City Planning Commission recommended to put the emergency exit only that Mr. Gant was just talking about. The thing I've addressed, most of this traffic would be an issue, is pedestrian traffic. It's already very heavy on Jordan Road. It's a dead end. Some of you are familiar with it, some of you are not. It's a park-like setting. An example, today I was driving from lunch back to my office, and there were 6 people walking, running, had the dogs. I stopped, they finally moved over. And that's a very normal, that's not an unusual thing. With the addition of several hundred new residents there, regardless if it's Artesa or whatever that might be, this is an issue the city really needs to address, and I'm not sure where that's taken into consideration. It's an issue with multiple other things. I know the police department's looking at different crime issues that are going on up there. Mr. York from the street department's been out looking at trying to do different things. So that's something, I'm not sure that that's looked at properly. It may be, and I'm unaware of it, but it's a big concern. It's a natural, that's road, for some reason you naturally speed on that road. I don't know if it's just the curves or whatever it is. And some of you have been up there. It's a danger spot for pedestrian traffic, so any residential development there, especially high impact, is just going to add to that. And as would office for lunch hours and stuff, but it's a big concern for the city from a liability standpoint, I'm sure. And as a resident there, I don't want to hit anyone. So, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jimmy Tullis, and I live at 604 Jordan Road. I'm one of several families that live directly across from the new Artesia subdivision that's being planned to be developed there. And like the 2 previous gentlemen, we do have a concern with the safety of the residents on Jordan Road by adding additional traffic through an entrance off of Jordan Road that would be something other than an emergency entrance. In addition to that, we still stand firm with our previous request to leave the mature trees, plant some new trees, install the gate and a 10-foot drop-off wall on the Jordan side of the street that has been agreed to by Artesia and has been in their plans. So we hope that remains in the plans and continues to be there. We would respectfully request that the entrance be made a emergency entrance and exit only for emergency vehicles, to be siren activated and not activated with a key fob. So I understand that key fobs can be easily hacked. Once the code number gets out, everybody else gets it, and it becomes an easy entrance and exit for the regular citizens who will be living there. So we would ask that you consider a siren-activated emergency entrance only. So I understand also that Ashton Park has a siren-activated gate at their subdivision. And one last thing, we have some additional neighbors who did not get advance notice about tonight's meeting. It's our understanding that we would get a notice about any meetings regarding Artesia. So just want to bring that out. And so thank you for your time.
And while he's coming up, generally speaking, we try to ask people that want to make public comments to grab one of these little cards that's on the table as you come in. This gives us the opportunity to make sure we have your name and address and on the record correctly. So.
Okay. My name is Brandon Baisden. I live at 109 Winthrop Way. Just basically wanted to agree with the other 3 gentlemen's comments about the planned Artesa development, and especially my concern mainly is the emergency access only, just because of the nature of Jordan Road being essentially a country road that is in the middle of the city, and with the intersection with McEwen Road, and it's just a very difficult intersection, and having that many units built in, if they had access onto Jordan Road going to the interstate, that would just be the path of least resistance, and the concern that there might be some accidents there. And it's quite frankly, I've almost been in a couple. It's just dangerous. And to have that many more cars onto that intersection would be, I think, a high-risk area. So I just wanted everybody to take that in consideration. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. I'll now entertain a motion on modification of Standard 1, retaining wall height, request to apply the non-residential retaining wall standards rather than the residential retaining wall standards.
Mr. Mayor, you're going to want a motion overall and then move into the modifications of standards. So an
Okay.
overall motion then.
Rather than going backwards.
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
backwards.
Yes.
That's right. I'll move for approval.
This has been one of those days I've been backwards all day.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion overall to approve, and then we'll go through the modification of standards, and then we would have to vote a final time also?
With, as amended or
As
modified.
amended and
Yes.
modified. Thank you.
I'll move for approval.
Okay, appropriate motion.
Second.
Second by Alderman Skinner. Open for discussion.
For
Would
everything.
Now you may want to take
Now we
motions on
want
the
to
Yeah, you
modification.
So, go to modification of
Modification
standard.
one.
So,
MOS 1. You change that.
so is there a motion on modification of standard 1?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Appropriate motion, second. Any discussion on modification of standard 1? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Modification standard 2, building length, request to increase the maximum permitted building length from 200 feet to 236 feet. Is there an appropriate motion?
Second.
Who was it seconded? Alderman Peterson. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We'll now move to the following condition added by the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission. Condition 1, request to limit access to the site from Jordan Road to an emergency access only.
Move for approval with, want to move for approval with a request to staff to also take a look at our zoning ordinances for the future to possibly amend, so we have a possibility when one size doesn't fit all. We have a zoning ordinance that requires access to new developments, multiple access points. And as we've discussed, sometimes it just doesn't lend itself to be appropriate. So I know does not comply with our current zoning ordinance, but I think we have to take a look at this where it doesn't fit and say it is not appropriate, but yet at the same time, staff really needs to take a look at that for future requests for condition of approval that may not fit like this one does. So I just want to state that up front on the record with a motion for approval. For a emergency access only, siren activated, as requested.
Appropriate motion, second. Vice Mayor.
I'm going to support the condition. And I understand staff's recommendation, and I support staff for making that recommendation. Staff, we wrote the rules, and I would not want staff to fail to remind us about the rules that we wrote. So they did their job. However, when I look at this project, I see, I don't want to sound too harsh about this, but I see an existing, well-established land use next to a proposed difficult to make compatible land use. This project is Cool Springs. This project is not Jordan Road. What I mean by that is, if it weren't physically possible to connect to Jordan Road, we wouldn't wish that it were. This project is consistent with what we see in Cool Springs, and I suspect the people that gravitate towards it will consider themselves to be residents of Cool Springs, and they should. But I don't think that we ought to attempt to blend the traffic of what I see as a Cool Springs development with a neighborhood that has been there for a long, long time, like we see at Jordan Road. I was here when we cul-de-sac Jordan Road, and we did it specifically to keep Cool Springs traffic from becoming the cut-through for Cool Springs to 96. That, Doug Langston was the alderman, and he rightfully pointed out that that what was once, that it was no longer appropriate to have traffic patterns that encouraged commutes from 96 to Cool Springs through Jordan Road. And he was right. And I think I think it would be inappropriate at this point to in service to an ordinance, like we have, to put that burden upon these people. I understand that it may cause additional traffic burden, or will cause additional traffic burden. I understand the policy of attempting to connect these neighborhoods, but these two neighborhoods don't belong together, traffic-wise. As to the siren activated, look, I think we should leave the technology level decisions to the people who have the ability to implement it. I don't want to have to come back here when it turns out that there's not a workable solution that is compliant with a specification like that. I can't even get my garage door openers to work all the time. I know the code to the gate at the reserve, but I can't get the remote to work. So I'm not so sure that it is, that we need to create as an ordinance level policy the details of that. I think we should give limited emergency only access and leave it up to the people who implement those things to do that.
Any other comments? Alderman Peterson.
I'm happy to support this condition that that specific area, the Jordan Road is narrow, and also that intersection of Jordan Road and McEwen is and will continue to be, even with the proposed right turn lane, performing at level of service F for a left turn. And I believe that with all the traffic going out to, out Windcross to Cool Springs Boulevard, there will be a traffic signal there, and it will be either A or B level of service. And again, this particular area is not appropriate to have an access other than the controlled emergency-only access.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Berger.
Just need to clarify, make sure that we know.
That was my next question.
Yes,
You
clarify
rambled on a
option
bit
2.
longer than what I thought the motion should be.
Well, I
But
was
please clarify.
told by our attorney that that should be clarified as well, about having staff look at the future ordinance, because we are going outside the ordinance in this case, which is very important. So the option would be to support the required second access be emergency access only. And I said siren activated. Someone may make a motion if they want to take that out. But this option also chooses that BOMA amends the staff condition to remove the requirements to construct an additional right-hand turn lane at the intersection of Jordan Road and McEwen. The sidewalk lighting requirements that would have remained intact should they have not had emergency access only. So, as is option 2.
And
That's fine. I was
that's what
seconding.
you understood you were seconding.
But I do want to say
Want to be clear.
that this condition does, let me say how to say this. This is not the only type of condition that ever kind of is at variance with our zoning ordinance. In fact, those 2 modification of standards, they are also saying that that this will not follow the zoning ordinance. So many times many, many times, we have granted, as an example, modification of standards, which are only required because they do not conform to the zoning ordinance. So it is not, this condition here is not the only thing that does not conform to our zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
Alderman Barnhill.
Help me then to understand the difference between the two. As I understand it, the two that we were asked to approve were initiated by the developer.
Correct.
This was initiated by the planning commission somewhat, whatever. So the staff's concern is not necessarily the modification of standards initiated by the developer, because that's the process that we go through. Staff's concern is that we modify and issue and do the standard modifications sitting up here at this level, which is beyond the point where those particular issues should be introduced. That's their concern. So to have just to say that we're doing a modification of standards, and there's 3 in here, 2 were handled by procedure, 1 was not. That's the one that we're being asked.
May I make some comments? I was not at the planning commission meeting because I was out of town. However, I have watched the meeting twice. At the meeting, there was at first a recommendation that this be deferred because staff had not reviewed it. At that time, staff stated that they were prepared to answer. They had studied this. And in fact, whenever the neighborhood meeting was held, I think back in January, this was brought up at that neighborhood meeting in January. And staff was at at least one planning commission, that there was someone from Building and Neighborhood Services and/or Planning Commission was there and heard it at that time. But as I say, at the Planning Commission meeting, staff commented that they were prepared to, that they had looked at this and were prepared to answer. The concern, from what I gather, and I do not want to state what someone else said, was a concern about traffic overall in the city, not so much that there would be a lot of traffic generated here, because, as has already been stated, Jordan Road is cul-de-sac there. The only place you can go is out to McEwen.
Look,
And as I say, the level of service stated by the developer and from information that they handed out said it would still be level of service F for the left turn.
I still have Alderman Barnhill, and then you.
Look, I plan on supporting the amendment as you've introduced the amendment, okay? My point is only that to tie the 3 together is not necessarily correct. It's that if I'm reading the letter that I have in front of me here or looking at it, it's not that the concern is not the 2 that was introduced by the development and approved by the process. It is the one that was approved or recommended by the planning commission itself. That's the one that we're doing, and that's the concern. I think, from what I'm hearing right now, that's going to pass also. That amendment will pass also. But it's not that staff is concerned about 2, it's staff is concerned about
Right.
1. So.
Just a point of clarification.
Alderman Berger.
Point of clarification that these 2 that we just voted on were modification of standards, and this is a condition of approval versus a modification of standards.
Oh, I did not mean to say that they're
Right.
the
I
same
just
thing.
want to clarify that.
They have this commonality. Both of them
Sure.
are requests to be varied from the requirements of the zoning ordinance. That is my only comment.
Exactly.
It's not the same thing at all, I agree.
Alderman Skinner.
Usually I support staff when they're talking about connectivity, because I know historically there have been issues in the past where connectivity was not made because of neighborhood complaints. But you have to weigh this and see what you actually gain. And because of the condition of Jordan Road and the access onto McEwen, we would gain very little and probably create more problems than what we would gain by this connectivity. So this is reasonable for the board, mayor, and aldermen to look at this and see that this doesn't necessarily fit within what the standards are for this. So I think this is a good thing that we're doing.
Mr. Mayor, I would be supporting the condition as well, but I just want to make sure, or have for the record, that we are not setting a precedent here. And what I'm hearing, and maybe legal could participate a little bit, this indeed is not a precedent that we are setting by allowing this condition through the Planning Commission.
Every action you take sets a precedent.
Sets a precedent.
That is just all I can tell you. And anytime you go against or do something different than the ordinance you've approved, you show that you're willing to do something different than what you've put on the books. So it is a precedent. Now, we look at every individual situation, given the facts of that situation, and you know, you make a call on what you think the right thing to do is in any of these given ones. So
Just throw it out there.
I can't tell you you're not, because when you take an action, you
It's our
are
action.
setting a potential expectation that could be applied in some other development, some other neighborhood elsewhere. And that's why I think that the work to go ahead and try to look at anything that might be amended in the zoning ordinance to address this type of issue is an appropriate one, if you're gonna go down this road.
Right.
Because there might be some other conditions that we can adjust the ordinance to better anticipate down the line.
Vice Mayor?
Well, if we're talking about like layman's use of the term precedent, fine, okay? People may have an expectation that if it was a bad idea for this place and they can make their case that it's also a bad idea in their situation, fine. But precedent means you're stuck with it, and you can't then do it differently the next time, okay? And I don't think that's where we are. I also think that it is probably a good idea for us to look at some language in the ordinance to amend it. To me, it makes sense to talk about connectivity where the uses are compatible and the burdens on either of the developments are not, you know, inappropriate or disproportionate. Like I said, we're talking about two land uses that are very different here. And the reality is that when I'm thinking about the advantage to connectivity, it is not that one neighborhood will have a straight shot to a major thoroughfare by treating another neighborhood as a runway. That to me is not the advantage to connectivity. To me, the advantage to connectivity is to disperse traffic, give traffic a whole, an integrated network of alternatives. You know, instead of going 3 blocks and then 2, I might go 2 and then 3. That's connectivity that makes sense to me. When you're linking like land uses where we have similar subdivisions that may be built some number of years apart but not 30 years apart, connectivity makes more sense. But taking a multi-use, a multi-family development that backs up to an established neighborhood and allowing that development residents to cut through, they're not going to stop until they get to 96. They're not going to the Kroger that happens to be a half a mile down their newly connected way. They're just going to get in their car and zip down Jordan Road as fast as they could if we let them. That's not connectivity that I'm after here, okay? Now, that said, I'm not terribly worried about the precedent issue, simply because if someone else comes in here and says, you know what, connectivity's a bad idea because, and they read back to me the things that I just said about this one, and it's applicable there, fine. But if it's not, and they just don't want to do connectivity because some neighborhood doesn't like it, even though it's appropriate, then that's different, and that's not, I'm not concerned about being stuck with that until our application becomes completely arbitrary. I'm not as been out of shape about this as some. However, I appreciate the warning that we've been given.
Alderman Blanton.
I just wanted to add, I actually lived on Jordan Road about 12, 15 years ago and enjoyed that leg of Jordan Road immensely. It was my drive through the country to kind of get my sanity. And we ourselves dead-ended that road, and we made it not connective to anything beyond that dead end. And that road now has become a pedestrian, very pedestrian-heavy situation. And yes, there are people that have to use that one way out, one way in to get to McEwen. But by dumping, who knows how many cars would choose to use that, it is creating a nightmare that we cannot ever come back from. The street can't even handle it. It really can't even handle the pedestrians that are on there. Now, when you consider all the subdivisions, Richards Glen and Winthorpe, that feed into that. So, not to get into any of the other issues we've talked about, but I know Artesia is coming, but I think we need to be smart about how we let that happen. So I will vote for no access from Jordan Road.
So are we ready to vote on condition one?
Oh, we're leaving the siren out.
Yes. Whenever she restated her motion, it had no mention of the siren. In fact, if you were to read back
They can figure that out themselves, that's fine.
option two.
Yep. Right.
Okay, all in favor of condition one, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now we're ready to vote on the entire package.
I move for approval.
We've already had that move for approval.
Have any other discussion?
Do we have to
With
have
all
another
the
motion,
stuff.
Shauna?
With all the
Thank you.
all the baggage.
Just as votes
As
on
amended.
the
Just
amended,
votes.
on the
Yeah.
ordinance as
I mean,
amended.
yeah.
That's what I did.
There you go.
He did, he did.
You got this, man.
Yeah.
Doing a
With
good
a
job
vice
there.
mayor like you, I'm in good
I'm not gonna let you
position.
go wrong, man.
That's right, that's your job.
Let's hurry up and vote, because we got a lot of
Amen.
things. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 14, this is a public hearing, consideration of ordinance 2013-14, an ordinance to amend section 5.10.43 of the City of Franklin zoning ordinance relating to cross-access between adjacent use. Does anyone want to speak to this body? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion?
So move.
Appropriate motion.
Second.
Second by Alderman Skinner. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 15, this is a public hearing. Consideration ordinance 2013-44, a rezoning request for 3003 Del Rio Pike from estate residential to high residential district R3 on 9.04 acres. Does anyone want to speak to this body? I do have Carol Chapman's information. Yes, ma'am, you can come to the podium. Anyone else wants to speak to this?
I'm Carol Chapman. I live at 3001 Del Rio Pike, which is next door to the Lynch property, which is up for rezoning. I came to the Planning Commission meeting, but I think at that night, item 7, which was the Jordan Road issue, took so long, and the meeting was so long. My husband came with me because he's not able to stay at home by himself. And so I took him to the car, and I was gone, I know, not more than 5 minutes. So when I came back, the all the items had been discussed, and I missed my time to speak. So I'm here tonight. I'm just concerned about one aspect of the proposal for that property, and it's the 6-foot board fence that has been proposed as the barrier between our property and the development. And I'm opposed to the wood fence because it's just not consistent with everything else around there. You know, everything else has trees. And the wood fence, 6-foot wood fence, would just be out of place as far as I'm concerned. Practically all the property lines have some kind of trees or bushes or even weeds, but nevertheless, the wooden fence just would not look right there, would just not be right. The line, our property line between us and the Lynches has about a third of it is some beautiful pine trees that have been there for a long time, and the developer plans on leaving them there. So what I want is more trees down that property line, and if that doesn't meet the requirement, then maybe a berm or something of that nature, which the developer is agreeable to. So I'm just requesting that you consider something other than that wooden fence, 6-foot wooden fence. And it's not like it's joining a highway or a busy street or either another development. We're just one house there next door to the development that's being proposed. So, we don't need that much screening or that sort of a barrier between us. So if you could just consider something else besides the wooden fence.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else want to speak on item 15? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion? This is a rezoning.
I move for approval on the rezoning.
Appropriate motion?
Second.
Second? Was there a second?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Blanton. Now discussion.
And
On the
this
rezoning.
comment would be more for the development plan?
Yes, and we can take that up whenever we talk about that. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now we'll go to item 16. This is a public hearing, consideration of Resolution 2013-43, a resolution approving the development plan for Blossom Park PUD subdivision on plus or minus 9.04 acres for the property located at 3003 Del Rio Pike. Does anyone want to speak to this body? And of course, Ms. Chapman has already made her comments relative to that. So I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Appropriate motion, seconded by Alderman Skinner. Discussion.
I'll start it off.
Alderman Barnhill.
We had a lengthy discussion, I think, at the one of the workshops, but this is consistent with what we just got through with as far as doing a modification of standards or whatever we're being asked for here at this particular level, is it not, council? So if we do this, then we have done sort of what we did on the other project. And we were told at the workshop that this is such a significant change to change from the fence to the berm to the tree lines back and forth, that this would need to go back to the planning commission for reapproval, reprocessing, whatever. And I see Vernon shaking his head over there for that also, and Catherine. So, I don't know what we do on this, but, the applicant has indicated, as far as I can tell, and I don't even see them here tonight, but they need to be here. Are you here?
They're here.
Yeah.
They're here.
You need to be up there.
Needed to speak to
Well, we can, so there's really some
Public
questions
hearing's
to be
already
asked.
closed.
Well,
Yeah, but
Somebody needs to
but
call
is there,
Information that you need to
I
ask
need
them?
to ask,
Yeah,
Okay.
they need to speak to this.
well, my question to you is, you've listened to the 6-foot fence question and you've listened to the 6-foot fence comment. The requirement for the 6-foot fence is not coming from you, is it?
It is not. That's
And it's
something,
not coming from Mrs. Chapman, is it?
it is not.
It's coming from staff based upon our zoning ordinance, is it?
That's correct.
Okay, well, see, I don't understand why, if the applicant is not asking for the 6-foot fence and Mrs. Chapman is saying she doesn't want that, I don't see that it's a big process or a big thing for us to say, you build what, and I don't want to make it quite as simple as that, but you do what you need to do to satisfy her, and we approve this thing tonight as whatever the approval is, and she has said, and I've understood you to say, berm, tree line in place of the fence. She said that would be satisfactory. Is that not what you've understood?
The fence is one option that's allowed
That's right.
in the
It's
zoning
not the only
ordinance. The
thing.
berm is also an option that's allowable. And we're agreeable to working with staff at site plan to make sure that we get the appropriate buffer, so that it wouldn't necessarily be approving a fence. That was just one proposal to satisfy the requirements of that incompatible use buffer.
So it's an option.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good to know.
Well, eliminate the option of the fence.
Well, I think you
Alderman
just better
Martin.
keep the option.
I would think if you've talked to the staff and if you've talked to all these people, it might be well to talk to Ms. Chapman.
I
It
think
would
they
be
have.
nice if you and Mrs. Chapman could get together.
We have, and we're agreeable to changing it from the 6-foot plank fence to one of the other options. And that's kind of what our intent is after upon getting approval, if that's what happens, then we would deal with it at site plan. And we have talked to staff, and that was kind of their recommendation to us, is to deal with it at that point.
Okay.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
have every anticipation of doing something.
So it's good that you spoke.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 17, this is a public hearing, consideration of Resolution 2013-50, a resolution approving a development plan for Williamson County Emergency Operations Center PUD subdivision on ±5 acres for property located at 304 Beasley Drive. Is there a
Move for
motion?
approval.
Separate motion, seconded by Alderman Barnhill.
Wait,
Discussion.
was that,
Oh, public hearing.
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Got to hear some people
I'm
talk.
trying to get going.
I know.
Public hearing's closed. Now I'll take that motion again.
And I was
Move
second.
for approval.
And I was second it.
Appropriate motion is second, this time by Alderman Bransford.
You didn't know me.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 18, this is a public hearing, consideration resolution 2013-55, resolution approving a development plan revision for the Preserve at Echo Estates PUD subdivision on ±86.3 acres located at the termini of Echo Lane and Alpine Court. Does anyone want to speak to this body? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. For clarification, we'll have to have a motion to approve and then vote on the modification of standard and then vote again. Only modification standard, so it just takes one motion. So is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Second by Alderman Barnhill. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 19, this is a public hearing. Consideration ordinance 2013-50 to be entitled an ordinance granting a franchise to Atmos Energy Corporation.
Motion move for approval.
Is there anyone that'd like to speak to this body?
Oh, again, sorry.
Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed, and Alderman Blanton,
Second to Alderman Blanton's motion.
thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. This is new business, consideration of event permit application from Ragnar Events for Ragnar Relay, Tennessee on October the 26th, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Appropriate motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 21, consideration resolution 2013-68, a resolution to amend the table of organization for the Human Resources Department relative to Assistant Human Resource / Benefit Division.
Move for approval.
Second.
Appropriate motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 22, consideration maintenance agreement with the United States Geological Survey for the operations and maintenance of the Harpeth River gauging stations at a cost of $14,460.
Move for approval.
Second.
Appropriate motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. I'm sorry.
Aye.
These, this is the one-page contract again? Is that right? Is this the one-page contract again?
The USGS?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Honestly, you guys
Yeah.
should read it.
Yeah,
Someone
it was.
whoever drafted this
Yeah.
should be promoted
Yeah.
to whatever. It says everything it needs to say and not one thing else. It's like a good Swiss watch.
Could it be, could it be
Any
Sam?
other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 23, consideration of engagement contract with Hall and Associates. Would ask for a deferral
So move,
to November the 12th.
so move.
Second.
Second, from Alderman Barnhill. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 24, consideration of change order in the approximate amount of $17,246 to City of Franklin Contract 2012-0195 with Southeast Contractors to provide additional electrical service work for the City of Franklin Data Center Expansion Project located at the Police Department.
Move for approval.
Appropriate motion.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Berger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 25, consideration of amendment number 4 to the professional services agreement with CDM Smith for the Jackson Lake Dredging Improvements Project in an amount not to exceed $26,600.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second by Alderman Martin. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 26, consideration ordinance 2013-49 to be entitled, an ordinance to rezone plus or minus 43.2 acres to the Height Overlay District for the property located at 9009 Carruthers Parkway, establishing a public hearing for November the 12th, 2013.
Move for approval.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Bransford. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 27, consideration of ordinance 2013-37 to be entitled, an ordinance to rezone plus or minus .29 acres from historic core residential to residential variety RX for the property located at 411 Cummings Street, establishing a public hearing for November the 12th, 2013.
Move for approval.
Appropriate motion.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Blanton. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. So I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye. Second.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you.
There you go.
I think we're going to be.